Well, welcome everyone to Night 5 in Marketing New Ventures in our MBA program, and welcome to all you guests who are joining us electronically. In our textbook, the author devotes chapter 24 to Google+, and she leads off the chapter by asking rhetorically, do I really want another social media platform to worry about? And then answers her own question, if you're talking about Google+, the answer is yes. And this textbook, published in 2012, said, well, it hasn't reached the market size that, say, Facebook has with 700 million active users. It only has 100 million active users. And only in the world of the web is 100 million a small group. So I think that's certainly big enough. I'm sure it has. So
let David answer that.
And okay. But rather than just reading about it or studying about it or experimenting with Google+, I thought it would be fun to bring into the classroom an expert in it. I met Dennis Duce about 3 months ago and was wowed first by his enthusiasm for Google+, and then by his expertise in it. And since we first met, he's actually now started his own consulting business to help companies master this new social media. And from the chatter I've heard as we were getting set up, Dennis, I guess you're not alone in this world of tackling Google+. So thank you for rounding up your colleagues, comrades, and friends to join us tonight.
I could have brought a lot of people onto this show, and I purposely, and I had a long conversation with Christine today about exactly why I picked who I picked for the class. These guys are all very different. They all have different personalities. They all have different takes on how they use Google+. And the thing is that at the end of the day, Google+ is a tool for true engagement on a way that Facebook, Twitter never could. And so it is about who you are as a person, and that's why I brought in distinct personalities. I hope in the next hour and a half you guys get a real good chance to see what I'm talking about. Each one of these people is very knowledgeable, and yet each one of these people is a very different person, and you're going to see exactly who they are in the next half an hour, hour and a half. And this one right here, Mia Voss, is going to shine with her personality more than the rest. I can pretty much guarantee you. Right from the tiara, she's never on camera without that tiara, and yet how many HOAs do you do a week, Mia?
I have 2 shows, one with Christine, who's also on the panel with us, and then usually guest on one show. So between 3 and 4 HOAs a week with this.
With that.
It's
so an HOA is not a homeowners association.
Exactly. Okay. I should clarify that.
This is an HOA.
Hangout on air.
Hangout on air. It's a live broadcast. Up to 10 people can be in what's called the film strip down here at the bottom. And let me show this way. Up to 10 people in the film strip here at the bottom, and you can have an infinite number of people watching this. And right now we have currently 11 people watching this around the world. And those people are able to actually type in questions. Now, you'll see I'm going to be pretty busy tonight, so Mia and Christine have offered to monitor those questions throughout the night, and from time to time they may even pop up the questions on the screen so we can read them. Christine, Mia, before we jump off, she already had a question up on the screen.
Well, and it's a comment from one of our favorites. Here to see Mia and Christine. Who's this David Amerland guy? That is the beauty of this, is that you can call people out and really showcase them on your shows.
You can. So, Christine, or Mia, where are you coming from?
Denver, Colorado.
Same time zone, right next door, not too far away. In
Yes,
the
sir.
Google+ world, Mia is extremely close to us.
I am.
All right, so we're going to work through this list based on distance, which means, Christine, you're up.
I'm coming from New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, and I do have to say that it's not only the live HOAs that Mia wears her crown, she wears it in private ones as well. It's always on.
It really is. Day or night, bedhead or not.
It's her trademark.
It is her trademark, that's true. Christine, tell us a little bit about what you do here on Google+.
Well, I for 15 years I ran a web development business, and about a year ago I decided I really wanted to jump into Google+. I I actually stopped taking clients and started just full-time learning Google+. I really saw that it was the way to go, the social network that I wanted to be on. Just spent a lot of time watching, learning, networking with people, and over time, I'm now co-hosting 3 live HOAs. One with Ronnie Bincer, who is he's considered the Hangout helper on Google+. One with David. Oh geez, I just forgot his name. David Oldenburg, the Online Money Show, and one with Mia. And I've just been developing relationships. I became co-founder of Circloscope, which is a tool to help manage circles on Google+. And just so many opportunities have opened up since I really just started getting involved in meeting people.
All right. Thank you so much, Christine. We're now going to step to David. Where are you coming from, David? You mind saying that live?
Well, it just depends. Usually I'm in the UK, but I'm in Greece right now, so I'm probably the furthest away from you guys. And I'm enjoying some nice weather.
And it's dark outside. What time is it?
It's 3 a.m.
Bless your heart.
Do you guys understand how dedicated these people are to teaching you tonight? 3 a.m. This guy literally, I asked him a month ago if he would join this Hangout on air, about 3 weeks ago, and his answer was, I will be there if I get enough sleep the night before. Apparently David slept last night.
Not as much as I should have, but...
And David, tell us a little bit about yourself. Or should we brag for you?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Well, every time I introduce myself, you've got to think what I've got to say first. But essentially, what I do primarily is I write books and I write articles for magazines. And they're all based around search marketing, business development, and social media. But I also advise a number of corporations, which are global in nature, and I advise them strategically on their positioning in the social media sphere and search and how that affects their organization. And I blog sometimes.
Okay, time out. Some people blog. Some people even blog about business and marketing. He blogs for Forbes.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. This guy's about as humble as they come. How many books have hit New York Times bestseller? I know you don't even like to go there, so we won't even ask that question. Pretend I didn't ask. This guy, this is 230 some odd thousand followers on Google Plus the last time I looked at it.
Like this one.
He's a real...
There, Mia, put that back up. That's his... He's got his book.
And it's got the crown.
Well, I said to Dennis and I said to Mia, I said, what are we doing on a show with David Amerlin? Oh my gosh! I'm just gonna say what he said. Everything he said, I agree with.
What he said.
Yeah, Mia and Christine have been talking around on Google Plus about this show coming up, and they've been saying that they're just gonna sit there and nod their heads through the whole show. And quickly you'll see why. David's a really smart guy.
Really smart.
You want to see a really funny video? I posted a video today from an interview I did earlier this week with David when literally I went blank. I'm just like, wow, that was, could you please digest that?
Right.
So it's like a little 1-minute video. It's pretty funny. So you got an idea of who our panelists are. We have discussed between the group of us about 5 things that we want to discuss with you, that we want to cover about basically the new economy, what's coming, what's changing. Because marketing, the way it's been done, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for a lot of reasons. One of my favorite things to say, and it ties in with what we're going to be talking about tonight, is that the Occupy Wall Street movement would not have happened, in my opinion, if businesses understood one thing, and that is, we don't care what your brand is. We want to know your people. Now that would do 2 things. First of all, They couldn't hide behind this brand and do all the creepy things that made Occupy Wall Street even possible in the first place. This isn't a statement of whether or not I agree or disagree with Occupy Wall Street. It's just what happened. The second thing that would have happened is the people that were doing the Occupy would have felt like they have a relationship. You can't run and hide if you're a real human. And businesses need to break down their brands into the individuals. And Google is a massive tool for doing exactly that. You guys are all staring at me like blank-faced. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So,
can you guys hear him, or should I like get closer, or just repeat?
No, I can hear him.
Okay.
so you talk about breaking down the walls into brands. So how does Google Plus allow you to do that on a mass scale, right? If you have a huge company, because right now you can have, and you know, my knowledge of Google Plus and Hangouts is very limited, but how can you get a huge group of people interested in being a part of a Hangout, and how many people can you have in that Hangout, and how would a company even go about creating the energy and the, how would they market the Hangout, basically? That's what my question is.
All right, Mia, you've got your hand up. And you guys don't need to put your hands up. Please pipe up, because these little thumbnails are sometimes hard for me to see.
It is hard to see. I'll start it and you guys finish it. How's that? The interesting thing about Hangouts is that you can have up to 9 people on them, which is great. It gets a little bit crowded, but you see at the film strip at the bottom. But again, as Dennis said in the beginning, you can have as many participants as you or any people that are viewing it. And then, as you may have seen for how Dennis set this up today, you can also start an event. So it's kind of this twofold thing that you have an actual video of it, and then just as you all are participating in the audience, you can have people from everywhere. And for all of us that are on the panel, we've had shows that have been international and had up to 500 comments, and this is kind of where the magic happens, is where there's conversation between the people that are on the panel, between the panel and between the panel and the audience, and then between the audience members themselves. And that's really where you see ideas start to form. I've seen collaborations start, and again, this is really more on a personal level. Each one of us are kind of our own brand as opposed to our company. David works with brands, but on that level, it's actually really great because you can really kind of build your own brand and then get a lot of conversation going between people.
And then
Can I just yeah, go on, Christine. That's fine.
I was gonna say, and then afterwards, you know, all of your videos are on your YouTube channel.
It's evergreen.
So you know, you can also embed them on your website. When we're promoting, we'll send out a tweet. We might put it on Facebook. You know, trying to generate an audience outside of our, you know, inner circles.
And for sponsors, it's great too. Sorry, there's a lot of evergreen on that one too.
Can I just contextualize that, because I think both what Mia and Christine said is absolutely vital, because essentially what they described is a structure which we're familiar with at brand level in an offline environment. And if you think of brands which carry out events, or they carry out promotional spots, perhaps in a supermarket or perhaps in another staged setting. Now, that takes a lot of planning, and there's a lot of investment in terms of money and effort that goes into that. And it's always localized, and it always has a limited kind of reach. And when brands do that, they actually expect to see something. They perhaps want to give out so many samples, they want to get so many people's emails or phone numbers or details, and that's how they measure the success. And the reason they do that is because they try to create a kind of relationship with a target audience and introduce them to something new and broaden their reach. Now let's take this into this context which Mia and Christine just described, where you have the direct connection of a Hangout on air, which can have a lot of viewers apart from the 10 participants. So let's say you have 0 participants, maybe you have 1. But then you have a lot of viewers who go on the event page, and they can actually interact, and there's an unlimited number there. They can interact at their own level of comfort level by putting in comments, and those comments can be addressed at the Hangout in real time. They can also be addressed at Hangout at any time, because the video, once it goes finishes, it goes live on YouTube, so you can watch it afterwards. You can watch it on the event page whenever you want, and you can basically go there and see it whenever you want. So it becomes an evergreen resource. Now, the value of this is that it is also indexable in Google search. So somebody, let's say it is a product promotion that you're doing as a brand, and it has a wide audience appeal. You have the expert showing off the product on the event itself. They answer questions. Now that becomes a resource which actually shows up in Google search, and it will show up in quite a high place, because events which have a lot of engagement basically generate quite a high level of interest in terms of the signals they send out, and they tend to place high in search. So at a very low cost, in terms of when you compare this to a real live event, you can actually generate something which gives you a longer reach for much longer with deeper engagement at a more targeted audience. And it just needs that clever positioning in terms of understanding your audience and reaching out to them, because just posting it on Google Plus and saying, hey, I've got this great new product, come and see it, that will not work anymore. That really works anymore in the real world, where we get diminishing numbers every time these events are run. So in order for it to work, Dennis said we're in a relationship economy. That's what it is. You really need to invest in building that kind of relationship. And in order to do that, you need to answer one very simple question. Why should anyone do business with you? And though it's simple, it has many facets. And you need to address all of those facets in order to get the audience to engage with your brand today. And that is a challenge for brands. And it's a challenge for any company. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So you were like what he said.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, there was one last piece of your question that I don't think any of the three of them hit on. If I was understanding you right, it's how can a large corporation utilize a technology like this, like Google+.
Or even a small one scaling up. I mean, just how do you get people aware that you're going to do a hangout, and how do you market the hangout? Yep.
Okay.
It was hard. Can you say that again?
How do you market the hangout? How do you get it aware? So the steps I go through, I produce for various clients. I produce 3 hangouts on air every single week for my own marketing of my own personal brand. On top of that, I have 6 clients that pay me to produce weekly hangouts on air. On top of that, I usually do about 3 hangouts on air that are one-offs like this. It just so happens that, strange week, I did 2 one-offs with David Amerlin this week. And I never do 2 with anybody, it's just the way timing happened.
If there's going to be anybody you do 2 with, it's David Amerlin.
Well, that's true. That's true. Of course, you and I could have a whole lot of fun doing 2.
Yeah, that's coming.
You heard it here first. But, so I do a lot of these, okay? Well, my first step is I set up the event. Now, when I set up the event, and the event is, let me just show this to you. I can't, screen share is broken, so all you people at home don't get to see this. This is for the class. Sorry, guys. I'm just showing the event that's on Google+. But the event is right here, and it's got, information. You can see the people who are engaging. By the way, shout out, Kirk Sherrod is one of my clients. I do a show. If you guys are into biking, really cool. This guy brings in like world famous bikers from around the world on that show. Anyway, self-promotion. Sorry, guys.
So but live comments that come on since you started?
Oh yeah, this happened at 6:27. So that was a minute ago. Kirk put up this comment. Okay, but here's the thing. Right here, when you create this event, and this is just something you create in Google+, it gives you this link. Oh, cool!
What's that?
Ooh, they updated it. You now have 3, not 2 codes. You've got your event page URL. Right. You've got your YouTube page, which they didn't have even earlier today. I set up an event earlier today, and it didn't have a YouTube page. And you've got your video embed code. So I set up this event, and then using those 3 codes, I start to do a lot of other things. For example, the video embed code, I embed it on my website. I embed it on my client's website. That code will stay the same. Up until the event, it has a black background with a white countdown clock. So if you find it on YouTube, it'll tell you this is happening in 9 days, 6 hours, 32 minutes, and 17 seconds. Okay? That would be housed on your website when the show goes live. It's the same URL, and what's really nice is once the show's over, it's the same URL. That doesn't change, so that video has a real long life cycle.
You know, I'm going to jump in on that too. What's great with that option, Dennis, is that you can also do a trailer, which I do for my show. So I create an event 6 days beforehand, and then I do a nice trailer on it and introduce my guest. And so there's a lot of moving pieces that you can choose to use to really pop that out. Quick 30-second trailer, or you can have that countdown clock.
Yep. Yeah, and you'll have even if you do a trailer, the trailer will show up in your event, but the countdown clock will be still the countdown clock over on YouTube or on your website.
Exactly.
Or the video that's going to be live. So you'd end up having 2 videos tied to the same event, all really good from an SEO standpoint. You're creating links going back and forth. This is all really powerful stuff. But you can then take it. I've got an app that I just started using today, and so this broadcast through an app called Hosted Hangouts. Shout out to Michael Mason, my friend. Big smile. I actually knew you had talked to him earlier today, Mia, because he had told me that. Anyway, I started using his product today, and it allows me to have this thing broadcast and running on my Facebook page. So there's people actually watching this thing on Facebook as well on Gombach's page. So there's a lot of things you can do with this.
Let me jump in really quick too,
and then I will after that as well.
To mention the obvious that you know, you can send out invitations to your circles. You can share it on your profile page, and then what's really neat is other guests that are coming or people in the audience can also share it. They can also send out invitations, and on a regular basis, Mia and I get several hundred guests a week just from basically just sharing it on our profile page and sending out a few invitations.
And quick shout out to Christine. That was when she was one of my, oh gosh, I think I was your second hangout, right, Christine? Because you had not done many, so you came on my show, took a chance, and that was one of the algorithms that I figured out was because Christine had at that point, I think about, not to be the size queen, but about 40,000 people circling you, which now is many more, and you not only shared it, but you invited your circles, and that was a magic potion that happened with my show when you did that. That turned this is the algorithm of Google Plus. Like all of a sudden, my world became a lot larger with that. So there's a lot of numbers that you can play with depending on guests, or even email your own circles. Is that outside of that, because they can still access this event just by clicking on that event, even without being a Google Plus user. I think still, right, guys?
Yes, they can. And when I
never know when it changes.
When I email out, because some people are still afraid of Google Plus, I will email the Google Plus link. I will email and tell them you can watch it on Facebook here. I will email out and tell them that you can watch it on my website here, and I'll put in 3 separate links.
Or just YouTube, right? Or then once you get that up, you can tell them just to go to YouTube as well, and they can comment there on YouTube, and if they're a Google Plus user, have that go back to the event as well. So, hey, I do, when you're done, I say a question for David as well on the panel here too.
Really quick, the one thing that I want to point out though here, and I think this is important. It may not be your exact question, but I think it's important to understand. For large corporations, this kind of technology, the idea is you've got to break down that idea that you have a set brand, and the individuals need to be allowed to come out of the woodwork and shine and comment. And so if a large brand was going to do a hangout on air, you want the commenting to be coming from, you know, the marketing department may put it on their event and their page. That's great. But the individuals from the company, even the people in accounting or whoever, should be jumping in and commenting and joining in that conversation and building that brand as a bunch of people. You know, I don't think there's anyone out there. There's a guy here on Google Plus named, and I'm probably going to slaughter Mark's last name. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but Mark Traphagen. Did I get that right?
That's it. We interviewed him yesterday, and he confirmed.
Mark never says the name of the company that he works for, but there is no one on Google Plus that doesn't know who he works for.
Stone Temple Consulting.
There you go.
Exactly.
And he does a great job of just keeping you aware, but showing his personal expertise. Okay, so it becomes something that it's not a marketing department, it's not the sales department, it's the whole company. If you want to watch a company that's doing this and doing it right, that's a large company, Zappos would be one to definitely keep your eyes on. They do this kind of thing, and not just Google+, but they do everything right. We've got a question on the line that Mia wanted to bring up, and then I'm going to let you go. Okay.
And it actually loops into brand. That's why I was saying that, because of what David said. I'm confused on how we should brand ourselves on this new playing field. I'm hoping that we look a certain way. What might be the best way to accomplish this?
Now, let me make a clarification here really quick. This is one of my clients, and he owns a bike shop, and his goal was to make this bike shop look like it was the bike shop that the Wright brothers owned. Okay, you go in there, it's all barn stuff, there's all these cool rusted things, he's actually stuccoed over the brick and it's cracked. The reason I'm bringing all of this up, because it's going to help you answer the question, David, because this is a guy that even though he's a two-man operation, he really buys into image marketing heavily. Okay, so I'm just bringing that up so that David can probably answer the question a little better.
Okay, great, and thank you for that. Now, if we look at the offline example, a lot of effort has been invested in creating essentially a narrative using the old world example of the bicycle shop, and you know, the Wright brothers owned the bicycle shop at one point. Now, when we take this into the online environment, it is critical to work out a number of things. The first thing you have to work out is why should anybody do business with you, which means that you need to be able to project the right kind of image. And why do we say that? And usually when I say creating the right kind of image, marketing department gets involved and says, oh yeah, we know how to do this, we've got PR people. And it's not like that at all. The online environment is decentralized, there's no real authority there, and there's also a sense of fluidity and anonymity. And in order to actually succeed, you need to be able to create trust, which means that people need to have a positive experience every time they have direct contact with you, which then that leads to the creation of identity. And how do we create trust? There are essentially 4 steps to this. The first one is contact, the second is perception, then is assessment, and then basically we have engagement. And this happens how? Well, you break it down again in steps, because everything you do is an outreach towards creating contact. The moment contact is made, whether you actually project an image, put up an ad, which you might do that, throw up a website, or even put up a post in a social media environment, you have to deal with perception. And here you need to be able to understand your target audience and correctly understand the impact of your content in terms of the perception of how they're going to decode it. Once you have that, then you go into assessment, because if my perception of you, for instance, is that you're credible, and then I go through the assessment of what you actually said and find out that you're not, because you may be inconsistent in your messages, perhaps a lot of other people have negative experiences about their dealings with you, and that's online, then the whole thing begins to break down. So if you pass the assessment stage, then we go essentially into the engagement stage, where I begin to enter the process of carrying out a relational transaction, which essentially is an e-commerce outcome in an e-commerce environment. And these are the steps which any kind of corporation or any kind of business or even a person working online today actually has to go through. And if you try to take any kind of shortcut in this kind of process, usually what happens is you create inconsistencies which make your whole brand appear not authentic, which then destroys the entire trust equals reputation equals success in business relationship and outcome.
And no like trust, huh?
Yeah. Yes. Let me point something out that's interesting, because as he was explaining those 4 steps, and if you didn't write down those 4 steps, if you go and search for David Amerlin 4 steps, Forbes magazine, my guess is you're going to find about a half dozen blogs. He very often ties these 4 steps that he's created into, is it what, probably half your blogs touch on that? Maybe a quarter?
Well, about, yeah, because that's right, yeah, approximately, because we're in a transitionary phase, essentially. The old rules of marketing, and I'm just going to go over them just so everybody knows, is that we used to have product, place, price, and promotion. And really, this is the Bible that Jerome McCarthy put together, which came from academia. It was put into application right across the world, and any company bringing out a product would start with a product in a particular place, with a price point being used to introduce it and basically create a kind of market dynamic, and certainly promotion heavily at that point followed suit. And this kind of equation or algorithm no longer works. We know that. So we have going from the 4 Ps, which was what it was, to 4 Es, where a product now needs to be experienced. The place has to be everywhere because consumers have fragmented attention spans and they're in different environments. So essentially they need to see, if we take it in an online environment, they need to see it on Facebook, they need to see an ad somewhere perhaps, they need to see it on Twitter, they need to see it on Google+, and then in their offline world perhaps they also need to see it there. So everywhere literally means everywhere. It's as challenging as that. And then instead of price, we have gone to exchange of values. So instead of somebody giving you money, they need to have a very clear grasp of the value of the product or service they actually consume once they do give you their money. And that is what allows them to make that kind of decision. And instead of promotion, and this is the best bit, if you have done those 3 steps right, now you get evangelism. So essentially, satisfied customers today are willing to act as amplification points for your brand, unpaid amplification points, spreading the word, bringing you more customers because they're so satisfied with your service. If you're a big brand, this is fantastic. If you're a small brand, this is even better. And it creates a kind of equality in terms of how it works now, because a small brand has as much of an opportunity to do well as a big, massive corporation.
So let me explain it really quick. These 4 steps, I have gone through the first 3 steps with all 3 of the people that are on this panel. The 4th step of evangelism happened for me finally on Monday with David Amerland. After we spoke, David, how many times did you put out various different posts thanking me for the way that I interviewed you?
It must have been about, I don't know, probably half a dozen, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He really liked it.
Yeah. And let me explain. You basically have 4 different sizes of brands here. David Amerland is above 230,000 followers on Google+. Christine, and it's not about the numbers, but it still shows you how various brands can still engage because these are human beings and it still incorporates. Christine, what are you?
50-some thousand, I think.
50-some thousand. And Mia, about 25, 30?
Actually, I'm at 16, and that's grown since, oh gosh, I've only been really active about 7 or 8 months. So, and Christine's a little bit of the same number. So it's been the interaction that has been the magic secret sauce for all of us. You can look at numbers, but that's where, and I love Circle Count for that, and then Circloscope. You can really get in to see what it's the engagement and things like that, like the raving fans, the evangelists, things like, you know, Christine will come on my show and write a great post, and then it really ignites people. That's what's made the organic activity and engagement with people, and then them liking our shows or whatever we're putting out there. That's kind of how it's worked, and it's fun. Can I just add that? And it's fun.
That's how I.
It is fun, actually.
I became involved.
Marketing can be fun.
I became involved with Circloscope through going through those 4 E's, if you will. They downloaded a free trial of their product and experienced it. You know, now it's a Google Plus product, so they're mainly just on Google Plus. But other people who are evangelists for them, you know, they talked about it, so I see, you know, them being mentioned. I ended up, you know, becoming an evangelist for them by purchasing their product. I liked it. I told other people about it. And then I started, you know, connecting more with them and making suggestions for how it could be better. Next thing I know, I'm in a, you know, a co-founder position with them, and we're redeveloping it now. You know, so that's, you know, just one small example right there of how, you know, it really works. And that's a one person. It was a one-person company, you know, who actually is, you know, has a great product and just promoting it word of mouth, really.
Yeah, that's a great example. In fact, I mean, this is just an isolated example, but it really shows how the world has actually changed.
Absolutely.
The only way this is possible is because we create a kind of relationship. And the reason we create relationships is because it's actually easier to establish trust and measure it. So the way we used to do it in the past worked on a mass scale because everything was faceless. So in order to trust a corporation, you had to have a sense of their size and their reach, and perhaps the number of people who worked in them, and even the number of people who consumed their products. All those were signals of trust in the quality of what they actually put out, and perhaps the way they would handle any kind of interaction with you. We know now that they're not enough, and we also know that a lot of the times they let us down, and we just didn't know about it because we felt we were isolated cases. In a transparent world, governed by semantic search, governed by the semantic web, governed by social media, the isolated cases become very visible. And it only takes 1 or 2 or 3 isolated cases to become visible in order for a brand to begin losing trust and breaking down. And we've seen social media scenarios like this, social media crisis, again and again and again. So suddenly, when the individual counts, the company stops having any kind of power in its facelessness and its size, and if anything, it works against it. So now it has to establish a personal connection. Because when things go wrong, and they will, the only way to manage this is through that personal connection. And that's the challenge for a brand. And it's a big one. Because how do you project this if you're a brand? You go to you go to work in the morning, you're not the brand, but you have to at some stage act like it. We've been there before with the telephone. When telephone sales came online, it used to be on the telephone, you are the company. We had special training for this. So from a brand point of view, this can be actually managed the moment it can be understood, broken down into steps and processes, and adequate training, communication of expectations, and above all, internal trust in the quality of its people begins to be put in place. And what I see at the moment, the biggest challenge for any kind of large company is that internal trust, because for too long we have been able to run a business without it. And now that we need it, it's very difficult to get it from one day to the next. So these are the challenges.
Yeah, it's actually an advantage to be a smaller company right now.
Yes.
And it really gives some opportunity for growth that wouldn't exist. But really quick, I'm going to jump to your question in a second, but really quick, what happened here in the 4 E's for me personally that's interesting? We talked about the number and the size of each of these people/corporations. I had 750 people following me when I interviewed David Amerland, and I jumped by over 100 in 24 hours because of the nice things that he said about me. I mean, that may not be the only thing, but I guarantee you it had a piece to do with it. So, and why did he say those things? I asked him to do that HOA over 2 months ago when I had 350 followers, okay? And David did not say absolutely yes. He said, let's set it up for 2 months out, and I'm pretty certain, based on some comments here and there, David's kind of been watching me to see whether that was going to happen. We worked through those 3 first E's, and then the 4th E just happened because it went well. So those steps are really vital in building your personal brands, and that's what it's about. The corporations have to allow the personal brands to kind of start to take over.
Another thing just to point out about Google Plus is how, it is possible to connect with people, and build relationships with them that you would, first of all, probably never meet. But, basically, like, for example, there are several authors that, I read their book. I left a review. I put the review on Google Plus. I mentioned them. They thanked me. They invited me to join their community. Just, you can end up connecting with people that I just don't really ever see it happening that way, like on Facebook or Twitter. and really build relationships with people.
I think we should have warned everyone that we drank a lot of Google Plus Kool-Aid before we got here, and we like it.
Mia
and
and
we're
I
not
have.
getting paid.
Hey, we've even talked to Hulk Hogan, right, Mia?
We have talked with Hulk Hogan, and he.
And David, were you on that hangout with him?
I was on a hangout with Hulk Hogan, yes.
Yes.
And it was the owner of GoDaddy and Hulk Hogan.
This? Any of you know what they're talking about? It was a pretty funny day on Google Plus.
It was good.
Hulk Hogan was, coming out with some new branding and some other things that he was doing, and got on this big HOA that a Hangout producer put together for him. Who was that did that for him?
Ben Fisher.
Ben
It was Ben Fisher, yes.
Yeah, and so they brought Hulk on, and they brought in all of these, kind of power plussers, people on Google Plus that are, have some influence. And they did this thing, and what was it, about 4 hours before the show went live, something like that, Google decided that, because Google has some very strict algorithms about celebrities and people using celebrities' names.
Oh, yeah.
And they shut his account down because they were pretty convinced that Hulk Hogan wasn't Hulk Hogan. So at one point during the middle of this thing, Hulk Hogan, in very Hulk Hogan style, gets right up in the camera, pulls out his muscles, does the whole thing, and effectively just threatens Google. It was really funny. Like he would have threatened somebody back in the 80s when he was, it was, but the thing is that it went way outside of Google. Ben took that section by itself, turned it into its own video from the larger video, and that little thing went viral pretty quickly. And it wasn't just within Google Plus that thing got some traction, because, well, it's Hulk Hogan. So, yeah, you guys, all three of you guys were in that show?
I wasn't in it, but
we weren't in it.
But he, I remember when I commented to him, and he ended up circling me, and I'm like, I took a screenshot of it. I'm jumping up and down like a little kid. I'm like, oh my God, Hulk Hogan!
I'm gonna admit I nerded out as hardcore as we did about Hulk Hogan. I know that sounds odd, but I will say that is a great thing about Google Plus as well, is you really can. I mean, if you have a niche or a brand or something, again, like us, that you want to create, it's a pretty new field. So planting your flag right now on anything, you just can't go wrong with it. I mean, we just saw, well, that's what Michael did. He did that new video. Sorry, that was my cat. He did the new video where he's going out there and helping realtors to go through and that's through his new platform, realtors that are doing these live walkthroughs, and then you've got a map and you've got all these different screens. I mean, there's some interesting things going on.
Did
Toyota did that.
Mia?
Yeah, I did. Well, I that's what I was talking with Michael about. We kind of traded some ideas on it, because I want to plant that flag here with some of my realtor friends in my mastermind here in Denver.
Yeah, we need to talk. He and I also talked about that same thing, but
isn't that fun? I mean, and Michael is in Scotland, or is he's definitely not here.
He's no, he's on the Canary Islands.
He's even cooler, really?
Yeah, he's on the Canary Islands. But I did the same kind of I was part of this HOA she's talking about yesterday. We were showing how you could actually, a real estate agent could do a live walkthrough of a property.
Yes,
okay?
Wasn't that great?
They did it 3 different ways. They did it 4 different ways. There was somebody from London, somebody from Victoria, BC, somebody from Sandy, which I had set up, and I came in and helped out, but it was the realtor that was promoting the house. And everybody did some different things. And then there was a guy that had, I don't remember the brand, but they're knockoffs on Google. Well, they're not even knockoffs. They're the original technology of the Google Glass type thing. So they're portable eyewear, and he demoed his product. But when I was doing ours, we had set up 2 cameras that were on tripods that Michael bounced to, and then another camera that I walked around, and she walked around the house explaining what was going on. So we made some really interesting things. It was that was a fun show.
Some good history. I understand Google Glass is going to be showing up at the Super Bowl this weekend as well on the sideline. So.
Oh, fun.
Yep. So
now, as an example of a large brand using it, I believe it was Toyota, wasn't it, that did
the Corolla.
They have you can go on to a hangout, invite your family, pick out colors for your car, design the car, and then actually call up a live person, a representative, to come into the Hangout with you to help you and answer your questions.
And demo the car. You get your friend in the car and they hang out, and I guess you could even drive it over the bridge if you wanted to. I mean,
to be fair, they were using a prototype of Google Plus ads for this.
Yes.
So it can't be used just yet, but it's part of native advertising.
Yes.
But essentially, and I'm glad you brought it up, because Google Plus is very different from any other social network in many ways. Because it's not really a social network per se. I mean, if you think of a social network, it's essentially a container, and Google Plus is not that. Although it feels like that when you're in it, it's essentially a collection of tools which you use to socialize the entire web. And the Toyota advert example, what it is it allows the company to have a page. On that page, they have content which is of sufficient quality for some of it to actually be repurposed as an advert which will go through Google's display network, which is about 2 million plus websites, I think. Now, the moment that advert is clicked on, it takes the person back into Google Plus to actually interact with the content on the stream of the company. So it creates engagement and further embedding, and they can use the app to create their own car in a collective environment. They can call their friends or their family, etc. And then if they want to take it further, the app itself allows them to reach out to a representative or even go to a dealership and arrange a test drive. But it shows the kind of future we're going towards. And in terms of marketing, we're looking at content marketing. If you're in a company, if you're an individual, if you're a brand, if you're a single person acting as a brand, essentially the content which you create is your establishing of identity, purpose, and that sense of who you are and what you do, which the person reading it or consuming it needs in order to feel, again, trust in the relationship they're entering with you. Now, Toyota obviously is a big brand, but like any big brand, they still suffer in terms of finding sufficient ways to engage with the public. And this is an easy way to do it. So if you're a brand who thinks there is an audience already out there in terms of brand recognition, the challenge is different because you're looking for the tools to help you. Google Plus helps in this. If you're a brand which hasn't got a large audience or a massive engagement, then you're beginning to find that audience through different kind of content marketing. But the elements are the same. You're still trying to do the same things. So the dynamic doesn't change really.
So the question I keep saying, let's go to, turns out it had to do with Toyota. Okay.
And how Google Plus can really help a large brand with I guess that's kind of the difference between Google Plus and other social networks that are out there. Right? I mean, am I understanding that?
Oh, absolutely. Can you guys hear what she's saying?
We didn't really hear that one.
We couldn't, yeah.
I don't resonate.
It sounded good. What I heard.
Well, I work at an advertising agency, and the client that I work with is engaged in a really large content marketing initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my question, is how Google Plus can really help with that content marketing, and is that the difference between Google Plus and other, I guess, would you call them like closed systems?
Okay. Can I begin answering this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. You got the mic.
Well, okay. Essentially, I mean, first of all, the moment you engage into any kind of content marketing, you're trying to do very specific things through a very specific channel. So already have worked out the tone, the voice, what you're going to project, and what you're going to promote. The moment you decide that, obviously you have a very specific audience in mind, which those things are going to resonate with. And now the question is, where is that audience and how do you engage with it? And certainly in terms of engagement, because there's a lot of effort which goes into creating content, you need as many wins as possible. You need to be able to engage with your audience, then you need that engagement to amplify certain things. If we take into a closed network setting like Facebook, for instance, where you used to go for metrics like likes and perhaps reshares and comments. These are the three metrics which proved success. Now, if you did it in that container, because it is a container, all you did was resonate within the Facebook environment, and you had an uncertainty as to how far the impact of your content actually went. If you do it within Google+, some of the elements will be very similar because you're still trying to target an audience. You still want to generate engagement, but the interaction is deeper. So you can't just dump content there and expect that you will get the equivalent of likes, which is +1s. You need essentially to generate a discussion which will truly engage. And the moment it engages, you need to fuel it by replying back. And that usually gets a discussion going, like a normal discussion, like a real discussion you have face-to-face, which deepens the engagement. And here's the greater win of an open social network. The moment you have that kind of engagement, you also get a win in search. So somebody doing search with those particular search terms that your piece of content has, your G+ page will come up, your G+ post. So essentially, you're beginning to gain an audience outside G+, thanks to your G+ interaction, thanks to your G+ engagement, which you hadn't in any other kind of content. And because they will see the level of engagement interaction, it also becomes convincing. So suppose you're selling, and I'm giving this as an example, suppose you're selling handkerchiefs. Very difficult to sell today, but if you have a kind of engagement where people saying, "Oh, these are fantastic," and I tried this or I tried that, and they're really hard to get, and you get like a couple hundred comments. Somebody finding that in search, finds the page, finds the post, sees what it is, sees the content, and then goes through people basically vetting the product through their comments. It's an instant win. You don't need anything else beyond that. And that's the big difference of content marketed through Google+. It has the ability, essentially, to convince at a deep personal level. The downside of this is it takes a lot of work. The threshold for that to happen is a lot higher than any other kind of social network. In Facebook, you could basically, you could pay for comments. You could, get 200 people to go and comment on that, and you thought, oh, that wins. In Google+, you can't do that. And if you do it, you won't get the engagement. And people immediately clear them off as spam. So you really need to resonate with the audience you're trying to reach, which means your message has to be on point. You really need to be able to address them in the way that they expect, address their expectations, and live up to those expectations in your engagement and tone.
I mean, and there's the what's hot on Google. It's so interesting because I've never seen numbers like there's a section in Google, and let's admit it, there's a lot of that are crazy GIFs or cats jumping or something fun. No problem with that. But when there is something that is taken off, that Dustin Stout is a person that we all follow, and he's had some events or that gets shared, and all of a sudden you start seeing this thing go viral, then it really is vetted, and you do pay attention to it, and it grows. I love how things can really blow up, and some good information can get out there, including content.
Yeah. And even though it's work, I'll tell you what.
It's good work. It
is fun in a totally different way. Facebook was kind of fun. Twitter for me was honestly never fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a lot of work, and I have ADD. But I still didn't, I struggled. It's just fun. And the engagement, the comments, go on and find this event after, and this is going to have small engagement compared to some of the things, but there's pages and pages of comments, I can guarantee you, and I haven't even looked at it.
And I'm going to bring up one real quick if you don't mind, because this is a perfect example of it. This gal is Steampunk Beatery. She's actually a friend of mine as well, but she says Google Plus gives you direct connection to your customer through post pings, and for sure the ability to hang out for face-to-face, which we just did today. You won't get that on Facebook, and again, she is running this as a brand, but we also know her as well. So that is a great example of it, is you really are getting this direct connection, because like for instance, Christine is in I just forgot, she's in Philadelphia,
New Jersey, right outside.
Yeah, I was gonna say New Jersey. But we came up with the idea to do the show together. We've never met IRL, as we like to say it, but the connection
In
that
real
we
life.
made, exactly. Thank you. The connection that we made, and we do plan an in real life. Probably we're our sponsor at the holiday in DC, but that is not something I would have ever connected with some random chick in New Jersey on Facebook, right? And she reached out to me, and then we started doing these hangouts together. And you know, first having this private messaging, and then it's like a romance, and then having the hangouts and having that connection, and you can do that easily. And then now we have a show that we absolutely love, where we get to showcase people. So it can be a pretty cool thing.
It can be a really cool thing, and you really can. I mean, you can create friendships that are as real and as strong as IRL friendships are, right here. And like last night, I was in a hangout on air with 3 other people. 2 of them I didn't know. I was invited by one that we're all in common with, Sandra Watson, and literally we were just goofing around, having fun, pretending to be a bunch of beatniks, making up bizarre poems all around the theme of Google+. But literally, this hangout on air, and it was a live hangout on air, was nothing more than a party. Like, it wasn't, you know, educational like this one is and had this deep purpose. And you can't do that on Facebook. You can't go hang out with your friends. And my wife kept popping her head into my office at the house. She's like, "What are you doing in here? You're awfully noisy." Like, having fun.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
You know, I remember the first hangout I was invited to. It just popped up on my screen. It said that I was being invited to a hangout with 10 other people, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. I just, I clicked accept. I get on this panel with 9 other people or whatever, and I didn't know them really. I had seen them around Google+, and I said, okay, so what are we talking about? What's the discussion? What business are we conducting? And they're like, we're just hanging out. I'm like with strangers? Why? I didn't really.
Weirdos.
I'm like, well, that seems a little weird, and they're like, well, do you want to get to know us or not? And I'm like, okay.
They're like, then get out of our sandbox if you don't like it, right?
But it's definitely, it definitely took me a little getting used to. But now it's like, Mia will call me up all the time. We were just, video chatting all the time. It's just an easy way to do business. A ton
of brainstorming, by the way.
Right. I think a lot of business is happening in private hangouts, and also a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I just quantify this, because I think for the audience sometimes, the moment we say these things, they sound very alien, and rightly so. And I encounter this kind of a reaction in corporate settings all the time. Now, essentially, if you have experience of Facebook, it's very much a broadcast channel. And, like I said, you could essentially go and buy comments, and the moment you buy comments, then you generate more comments, and you have a metric which can satisfy you. And the question comes up, why is Google Plus so much more difficult? And the reason is that in an open social network, there is a symmetry of gain. So if you're in Facebook and you're a business and you have a brand channel, the one who gains primarily is the brand. And the users, or those who go and comment, don't really get anything very much beyond a little bit of interaction. The moment you get into the G+ environment, everybody gains. The people who actually take part in comments gain reputationally, and they're aware of this, which means that the quality of their comments, their depth of engagement, and perhaps we can call it the level of intelligence of what they're going to discuss, goes up a few notches, which then makes it very difficult for a brand to fake it, because you really need the real engagement. And the reason they engage like that is because it is a digital reflection or a digital recreation of the way we operate in the offline world. So if you're in the offline world, even in a setting like this, the moment you exchange casual remarks, you are aware of a dynamic where essentially those remarks are weighed, and somebody's making an assessment of your authority, is making an assessment of the quality of what you said, and it's making an assessment of your character even. The same thing goes on in G+. So this is new, which is why it's so challenging. The audience you engage with is also there to gain something from that engagement. And usually that's a reputational gain, sometimes it's actually a knowledge gain. But because they're so invested, if you're not giving them something which will really engage them, they're unlikely to engage. And that's what makes it so difficult. And all the things we've just said about, strangers hanging out together, yeah, I mean, there's a fun element to this, certainly. But there's also something deeper, because those strangers hanging out together are actually testing the new environment, seeing the connections. And it's not much different to you moving to a new area in your, when you change house or you change jobs. You go out and hang out in the park maybe and strike up a conversation, or you go out to your local pub or cafeteria and try to do the same thing, trying to connect. It's no different in G+, in that context.
Here's an interesting question, if you want to, because David, I know you popped in that you might have to go soon.
Yeah.
This is when I saw that, and I wrote crying in quotes. Scott wants to know: are you saying that Google Plus is institutionally organized so as to isolate Plus users from commercial content? Look at Scott throwing it out there.
We wouldn't expect much help from Scott.
Exactly.
Well, not so much to institutionally isolate, but the way that Google Plus is organized, whether content is commercial or whether it is purely informational, it has to have value. And if it doesn't have value, the structure of G+ is such that it is automatically filtered out. It becomes useless. And we know this from metrics. We know this from actual studies that we have carried out, albeit in a limited environment, where content that did not resonate with the audience did nothing and got nowhere, even though it was reshared through profiles that actually had, allegedly, some kind of pull and power. It didn't. So having going through the traditional brand route where you identify an influencer and you say, hey, how about we give you $10,000 and you push our stuff? Happens in Facebook all the time. Happens in Twitter even, with celebrities tweeting about products. You take that into G+, and yeah, you can give them $10,000 for them to push your stuff, but you won't get anywhere because they won't get the engagement, because their audience.
Crickets chirping. Like you literally can hear crickets chirping if it's not resonating with people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the wilderness. Absolutely. And that's the difficulty of it.
Thank you. I was going to pull that up.
So that's the difficulty. You'll hear that Google Plus is a higher threshold environment or higher threshold entry barrier. And yes, it does, because you really need to think very carefully about how you're going to project the message so that you actually engage at an intellectual level. That means something.
Okay, but it still can be done. But there has to be proper alignment. Okay, David could quite easily promote a given product, a software product or something like that, and because he gets how to do this, it could be done in such a way that it's going to resonate. Okay, but you can't just push stuff out there and say, hey, because I'm David, you need to like this thing. That's not going to work. We got a question here. Go ahead.
So it seems like you have to have an integrated marketing plan going in, because you have to know exactly where everyone in your target audience is in the process. So you have to be educated going into it.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I had someone said to me once, they said, well, okay, I've spent some time, I've built up an audience of 40 or 50,000 people, and now I'm ready to market my business. And I took a look at what they were doing, and they were sharing like cat photos, and I'm not saying I've never shared a cat photo, but
I was about to say we love our cat photos, but
they only shared that. They only shared cat photos, animated GIFs, crazy stuff, and nothing. And they were a realtor and had nothing to do at all with their business. And I said, well, you basically need to start over then, because you now have an audience of people who like cat photos, is what you have developed. So you can't just go in there and say, that's where the numbers don't matter at that point. because sure, you might have a high number of followers, but if they're not interested in what you're saying, it's really useless because it is crickets at that point.
And to put it bluntly, your audience will call BS right off the bat and say, "What are you trying to feed me? That you've been feeding me this, and now you're switching the bait on me."
Can I just add something very quickly, because I really need to be somewhere else in 5 minutes, so I need to go.
On another hangout, by the way.
Not to sleep. Right. That's right.
No,
He's going on
yeah.
another hangout.
Okay, on the integrated marketing question, absolutely right. And how did we used to do marketing before? If you were in a regular company or a traditional company, you had sales and you had marketing, and perhaps you had a PR, and those three were separate departments. And sales was involved with sales and had some specific requirements. Marketing was involved with specific product image, and PR was involved with company image. And those three departments never talked to each other, and they projected different things to different people, or even different things to the same people without realizing they were doing that. If you do that now, you'll get nowhere. Sales know what the public wants. PR needs to be aware of that. Marketing and sales need to talk to each other, and all of them need to talk to PR. So the integrated marketing channel which you're talking about essentially internally needs to reflect the flat level playing field of your customer base. All your customers talk to each other. They haven't got silos anymore. If they meet a message from PR, it's going to go through Facebook or Twitter or G+. That's all of your customer base. So what PR does can undermine sales in that respect. Sales can have, for instance, knowledge about product knowledge, which PR can use and doesn't even know about. Marketing can have specific information on demographics, which sales doesn't know about. So finding ways to communicate internally helps you find the voice and the touch points which you need in order to reach your audience. And that's the internal challenge which you need to face. So knowing that your customers are fast-moving, empowered, knowledgeable, and mobile, you need to recreate the same sort of dynamic inside the company. You need to break down barriers, break down silos, communicate openly, brainstorm on products, brainstorm on challenges, and come up with solutions which will then be able to be applied well outside the company and actually give you the results you want. Does that help?
I think you can engage your audience as well as part of that process, David, right?
Yes.
Of like, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
We are thinking about this. And get them engaged. We love that.
Yeah, for that matter, quite honestly, you can do that in, not all of it, but because there's some strategic planning things, but you can do a lot of that right on tools like Google+. You can create that kind of communication between those departments, and then you're incorporating the piece that Mia's talking about because it's public and the audience gets in there. It's a little difficult if you are allowing your people to engage as themselves for your brand, the way Mark Traphagen does. You are going to have a hard time with them getting miscommunication, misideas, if they're all actually doing that engagement and getting on and joining in the conversations.
A lot of transparency, right?
Exactly.
Transparency.
Exactly. And so some of that happens behind doors, and you need to create some processes. But by and large, there's been a little bit too much process creation and not enough engagement. And more of that can be done in the real world by utilizing engagement.
Preach it.
Preach it.
Guys, I've got to go, unfortunately. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Fantastic. I really enjoyed this, and I think just this kind of forum, this kind of thinking, definitely gives everybody who's here a competitive advantage, because it actually begins to inform your own strategy internally. And if you think, your competitors in the marketplace, if they're not exposed to this kind of environment, they will continue on doing the same things they've always done. And what they're going to see is diminishing returns without really understanding why. And you're already beginning the process of actually analyzing this and evolving with it. So I think that's fantastic. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
Bye.
Oh, we're going to clap for him, too.
Wow, that was actual real clapping, guys.
That was for real.
Not the Google
hey,
clapping.
Dennis.
And just as an aside, we were chatting on here, and David's gonna come on Mia and I's show next. So.
Wait. Oh.
Oh, you
Seriously?
missed it. Yeah, I just.
Oh, it's
asked
up in the chat. I was too busy on the comment screen. Wow, look at me. I'm like, yay! That's gonna be fun. But one of our formats, just to let everybody know, is so I have a show that's business oriented. So does Christine. But then Christine and our show together just showcases. I almost am starting to call it the softer side of people.
It's like a talk show. We started, and it's just fun.
We get people to cry sometimes.
It's been crazy, and we actually have we have sponsors for the show, so it's really been interesting.
And you know what, to flip that, and then I want to go to a couple people in the audience that are in our comment tracker that are doing exactly what we're talking about. But one thing that Christine and I talked about as far as sponsors, which is really kind of a new thing on Google+, we've decided how to get paid to be awesome, right, Christine?
That's right.
That's our hashtag. But one of the things that we've been talking about that we do is we also empower our sponsors of not only are we representing you, so we're doing what we agreed to, which is to represent you, to put you in a trailer, to talk about you, to tweet about you, but then we're also reminding them of here's your platform. We're serving it up for you, a bunch of people. Now you go and interact with them. We had a really good conversation about that of our different sponsors now. Like it's kind of a little bit of shooting fish in the barrel of not going after them, but interacting. Hey, thanks for supporting our show. And we're seeing a lot of our fans are literally going out and pinging our sponsors, just the same thing, and they're interacting. It's pretty neat to see.
Hey,
Definitely.
I went and followed that hotel.
Holiday in DC.
Yeah.
Where are you at? You're in Vancouver.
I've never been to DC. I have no plans to go to DC.
But if you do, inndc.com.
Exactly. Yeah. See, we're still shilling because we like them. We like them so much. You know, it's been cool though. I'd love for your everybody in the class to go when you get done. Go and take a look at this because Kirk Sherrod. Now is that your client? That's your client.
Yes, he's one of my.
You are a rock star, Kirk Sherrod. We're loving you because he's doing exactly what we love. He and Craig Fifield and a bunch of people, if you guys go and look, he is bouncing ideas, and this is what I'm talking about. There's magic happening, not even in the classroom, not even between us, but between the audience members, and they are all sharing ideas with one another, and that makes my heart happy. It's pretty neat to see. So yay, Kirk Sherrod. He is coming out of the gate like gangbusters.
You know, it's been funny. I've been struggling for a while trying to get Kirk up and going, and one of the shows.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. He's apparently jumping all over it. I can't wait to get in and see what Kirk's been saying. But one of the things that has helped him get to where he is, I run a weekly show, and any of you guys can come to this, but I run a weekly show Wednesdays at 9 a.m. I try my best to keep it to 30 minutes, called the ABCs of Google+. And this is for absolute nooglers. We go, and next Wednesday, we're going to tell you things you should and shouldn't do in writing your about statement. Okay. That's how simple the stuff is, okay? This is a hold your hand. And the other thing that I run a community that goes along with this that is private. You have to get accepted by me or Sandra Watson. And the reason is, this gives me an opportunity to take a look at things that you guys post, and actually I share those when I see something that's, could use some help. I'll share it into the community. It's now in a private, safe place, and I'll say, hey, this post could have been better if you did this, or if you did that, or if you did something else. So it gives an opportunity for me to help educate people to, get on here and get dirty. So, yeah.
And I love the name of Kirk's bike shop, Jerk's Bike Shop.
Jerk's Bike Shop, yes. And the HOA is Jerk's Corner.
It is, and here's what's great, and I'm sorry, this is the HOA with my dogs. He said to tell the panel guests his idea of having live tune-ups on an HOA, and he's actually bouncing that idea in the comment stream over here between everybody.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. We're thinking of setting up a camera, and then he'll tell people, we're going to have your bike tune up at this time, and it'll be maybe 2 hours, and he'll turn on the camera and invite you, and you could actually go on and watch your bike get tuned and even ask questions of the mechanic as the whole thing's going on. So he'll just, we're trying to, there's some difficulties with timing because bikes don't always just go in exactly a 2-hour schedule, so we're...
Well, you have 8 now. The Hangouts can be 8 hours long.
We could just run an
That's
all-day HOA, just, yeah. The whole 8 hours the shop's open, you can jump in and look at the shop repairs going on. So
Don't
One thing you might want to mention, too, is about help-outs. Help-outs are very similar to Hangouts. The difference is that you have basically like a teacher and a student, and you can actually charge and monetize. There are help-outs right now for all different kinds of things. You can learn how to play a guitar, pay $5 or $10 and sit down with a teacher and play, learn to play a guitar. There are cooking help-outs. There's fitness help-outs. There are social media help-outs. There are just all kinds. And the people who are, doing these, a lot of them are actually giving them away and doing them for free. You put up your availability schedule and people's schedule so that they can get the ratings and be found on search. So when someone is looking for, guitar lessons, or you're going to come up there, even if you're not local to them, they can still do this all over the world. That's pretty amazing.
Have you tried any, Christine? I know
have.
Are you? I haven't yet, so I wanted to see how you felt about it.
Yes.
That's awesome, and I know you're listed on there too. You're a helper.
Well, I never actually finished the whole process.
Yeah, I'm partway through it too. I'm like, oh, but I'm going to access it. I like it. Good reminder.
I did go in and access to help out.
You need help with your helping?
Well, no, I just wanted to test it out.
I love it.
I talked to John Skeets that way. If he was given a free help out, and I'm like, hey, I get to talk to John Skeets. I'll go in. I'll bite.
I love it.
We know everybody on Google Plus too. It's really neat because sometimes we'll refer to people by their first name. If you say Mark or Mark T, I know exactly who you're talking about. You don't need to say Trappigan, and so it's pretty neat.
Oh, I can guarantee you that the second I said Mark, you guys
you knew who we were talking about
with the opener that I had given.
And that's not, we're not saying that there's not a ton of people on there, but some people have become that level of influence, or just have, at least in certain circles, and are, really making a name for themselves so much that it's a first name thing.
Yeah.
I think that's been the cool thing, is to be on something where you can actually access your influencers.
Absolutely.
Like, we have people that we like that are our influencers, and then we can ping them and say, hey, and start a conversation with them. It's been great.
Yeah. Or bring them into a live hangout with a bunch of students.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any more questions? We got any questions from the audience, or are they just talking about ideas for a bike shop?
They are doing that. Kirk's really appreciates that about the help outs. It's really Kirk and just everybody kind of commenting back and forth. I think we got most of them. I'll pick through and see though.
Okay.
Now in the class, how many are already on Google Plus and how many are using it?
Ooh, good one. Uh-oh, cricket's chirping. Oh, yay.
4 on it.
On it, don't use it.
Cliff, you're getting on it.
I updated my
Yay, Cliff.
profile a little bit this morning.
Yeah.
I need your tutorials.
It's
Yes.
confusing.
It is.
It's a little confusing to get used to.
And that's the reason why I'm running the HOA I am, because it's not quite, it does a lot of things, and anytime something does a lot of things, it is going to be a little more complex to use.
I would just, some advice for anyone who's new, which I've only been on it for a year now.
Me too.
First thing, is go do a search, look for some communities to join, interest-based, and also some like Google Help type communities. And feel free to, ask questions. People are definitely willing to help. I've been sharing a series that was actually a series of Google Plus tips that was created by someone else, and he created 50 tips. I'm resharing them one a day because I just think they're so good and they're so helpful.
And then I reshared them.
I thought you created those.
No,
a bunch of them, and I hadn't picked up that you weren't the one that had created them.
You just saw Christine and got excited.
I inspired a couple of them, but he, and he gives credit to whoever, he kind of got that idea for the tip from. But yeah, I've been resharing them, and people, so many people will, say that they didn't know that, or if you have questions about things, when you look for tips, search for Google Plus tips. Comment on them and ask, well, how do you do that, or where can I get more information? But there's definitely help there, and I think a lot of people forget that Google is a search engine, and right there, even in Google Plus, you can search Google Plus and come up with the answers that you need. So if you're having trouble, how to format a post, search for it, and you're going to come up with, definitely come up with some great advice.
Just and take it slow too. Just don't get overwhelmed. I mean, the interesting thing, again, Christine and I are both new at this. I got into Google Plus about a year and a half ago. Looked around. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't manage one more social media platform. And then came back to it, and that's when I started doing my shows. And instead of doing radio, I just thought this is really fun. Craig does have a question. Sandra Watson wants to know, how many students are interested in getting on Google Plus after this hangout?
Good question.
That's my co-host for ABC's.
It is. Hi, Sandra. That's awesome. Uh-oh, we're not getting anything. Come on, you guys. Come and circle me and Christine.
How many of you are thinking you're going to get on Google Plus after this hangout?
Yay. Hold on. Let's do this.
Is that everyone?
And when you show up, we're going to make this noise. We'll be excited.
So, is there a way to find live shows like this that are just open? I mean, what's the best way to go out and find a show just to jump in and start kind of?
Yeah, it's pretty easy actually. You know what? You're allowed to screen share once. Let me see if it will.
I know it's still being fussy.
I know, and you have to jump out of it and get back in. And
while you're looking for that, I will pipe in that a friend of mine and Christine's, Mark Seidel, started a website called HOA Shows. .com, literally just HOA Shows.
Gives you the time and day, the link.
And it's not every show that's on. It's our two shows. It's a lot of the ones that a lot of us all kind of run in the same circle. Some of the people that have been commenting on the event here, that's one way to do it, is HOA Shows.
Yes.
And then for the live ones, and you're pulling that up then. Oh, you got it up.
Yep. Search the event tab.
Also, another place that you can go is Hosted Hangouts on Facebook. If you go to the because everyone who signs up, like I did today for the Hosted Hangout, it automatically, those shows are all running on Hosted Hangouts Facebook page. So that's another interesting place. But you just come in here to home. Am I? Let's see. Hold on a second. Okay, I am blue boxed. I hate when you do that. You screen share and then you don't blue box. It's like this little dumb thumbnail. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You come here to Hangouts right here. Okay, and then you click on the Hangouts on Air right there in the middle, and it's going to give you all the Hangouts that are currently going. Okay, here's ours right here.
And then, what's really cool is if you're a guest, you have the chance of looking that weird in a screenshot. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's got to be me.
There are so many Hangouts.
If you're a guest, this picture will update about every 3 to 4 minutes through the thing, so it rotates who's going to be the guest, and she says, if you're a guest, you get lucky and you get to look that weird in a photo. That was actually Mia that was saying it, so.
Look how awesome.
Yeah, so this is, a list of all the ones that are running right now. Another, did you guys have a comment?
I was gonna say, and like Christine said, like going to a community too, they'll showcase the events as well.
So communities, you find communities by going here on Google Plus, and then you can search for communities. You can get recommendations, and then it'll list community invitations that you've received, communities that you need to moderate, and communities that you have joined. I am in a lot of communities. But I find that that's where most of the interesting stuff happens for me, is inside of communities. And for the first 3 or 4 months that I was on here personally, I did not, there we go. I did not push anything. I got on here and I joined communities that were of interest, and I jumped into the conversations with those, and then up in the right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little bell in Google+, and that's where you get your notifications. And then I just kept monitoring those notifications and going back in and following the conversations, jumping back into them, watching for when people mentioned me, watching for people that plussed a comment I did. Then that led me to, you know, if somebody mentioned me and I wasn't following them, then, oh, well, that's probably a person I should follow. I started looking at other people to add to my circles, and just built first just an understanding of what the heck I was doing on there and who I wanted to engage with before I started sharing anything. And I think that's really important to...
Yeah, that's what I did. I listened, I watched, I really kind of immersed myself in it to try to understand it first. And then started sharing and started engaging with people. But it's definitely, I cannot express enough how it has changed the way I do business, for sure. It has changed, it has opened so many doors, so many windows, so many possibilities. I like to say I think the possibilities are only limited by my imagination at this point.
And how much time we've got.
Well, that too.
No, and I agree, though, Christina. It really is. It is pretty much unlimited now. There's access to so many different people. It is very time-consuming. Let's warn everybody that once you do get into that and you start building this, it has literally changed the way that I do business. Christina and I are both have that same thing, that we've turned ourselves into our own brand based on this. That's not what everybody would do, but go ahead, hon.
And friendships too. You're getting ready to go to Arizona to meet, a mutual friend of ours. The
two of them actually, Ben Fisher,
right,
that we mentioned, that did the Hulk Hogan, and I guess now I can't surprise Shannon because we just told him.
Oh.
We were gonna do it. He's a DJ. We're gonna go.
Well, you said it earlier.
I don't think we were live yet. No, it's all good. Listen, this is a good one too. But yeah, it really is true. That's our friendship. Dennis, friends in Italy. We have a lot of bucket list places to visit now.
Definitely.
It's pretty awesome. I like this question from Darian Lavelle. What is the most effective way to share communities, and how big of a role do you think they play in the whole scheme of Google Plus authorship tracking? That's a big one.
Where's David Amerlin when you need him?
Yeah, right?
I know. I was like, damn it.
Now I know public communities do show up in search, and your authorship is tied to your personal profile, and whether you share it on your profile or in a community, as long as it's public, it's still tied to you. What was the rest of the question about how to invite
how big of a role do we think that it plays in the whole scheme of Google Plus authorship tracking?
Now, definitely if it's public community, it's going to show up in your search. But
yeah, I do feel like they're a little separate. I kind of rely on that. I don't know if I can speak to it just of more of the Google Plus authorship, but certainly from, again, what we were just talking about with building relationships, potential partners, potential strategic alliances, things like that. That's where my ROI comes into play. If that helps.
What else you got?
I think I've got, well, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Craig is saying you can check the HOA. Just do #HOA, which is really great too. Here's a good one if for everybody to jump on there afterwards. Craig Chamberlain, we love him. He does a show every night. This is a great, really kind of a newbie step. And then honestly, you guys go follow Christine, because she does put out a ton of good content, and I'm a sharing queen from her, because we're all educating one another. Even though, again, it's not a bunch of businesses that are posting a bunch, there is so much information that I just get shared from people on an individual basis. And Craig made a comment, communities don't play a huge role, we should pull him on here, unless it's a well-respected community. And that is true, just like a profile. So then again, that goes back to, it's not just based on numbers. Yes, numbers we do look at, but then I go and look at the content. And if somebody has a huge amount of followers, but I don't like the content, still not going to resonate with me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a circle that I call needs help, and there's about 5 things that that I decide you go in that circle, and it's funny to me. I'll find people with 10, 15 times as many followers as I have, and I still look at them and go,
don't want to be you.
There, it's an outbound circle, which means that I use it to share certain pieces of information that I think might help people. I don't ever name who's in that circle. Because some of them might not like me to say that. But
we call that dog shaming.
Yeah, but it's it's just a way to kind of help. All the real power plusers are all about help. This is such a we're here to help each other community. It's unbelievable.
We are, and we're also about all of us kind of raising all of our levels so that, it is about monetizing and about that everybody is, doing what they love, but the help piece is what really does kind of foster that as well, that we're all, how can we build stronger businesses, stronger alliances? It's pretty neat. Not to dumb it down, but it's pretty neat. How's that for MBA speak?
I think you need a hashtag there, Mia. It's great.
Mia says it's pretty neat.
Okay.
I'm backcrap crazy for it.
If your brand has a YouTube page or a channel, whatever, can you link it, all your events to that channel?
Yes. In fact, if you are running an HOA on a brand page, and all of my clients that I do HOAs for are all, I run brand pages because it allows me to run those shows, and then they do other stuff on their Google+, but you have to actually link your YouTube at this point. That's since early December, something like that. It's a
November 22nd.
November 22nd.
Like our show, we have a page for it, Christine and Mia, and on the, it's all the events, the shows we do are automatically on YouTube, but they're also on the video tab for that page. So they're right there all together.
And I will speak to it. I'm in a little bit of a hot mess with that issue because I originally started out on Google Plus as branding myself as the Mia Connect, and then have really kind of just made myself into the brand. But when this change was made over, with Google and YouTube, all of my videos went over to the Mia Connect business page. I'm actually working with YouTube right now to move that back over. So sometimes branding is not always cut and dry, and you do a little bit of a shift. And I'm in a little bit of that rebranding type of thing and trying to work on that, even though it is called the Mia Connect, and there was some programming in there to get that back to Mia Voss because that's what I'm known for. So sometimes it can be a little difficult. So. And I'm soaking in it right now.
Did that answer your technical question?
Ish. Yeah.
Ish. Any other questions?
Here's a quick one. If nobody has one, sorry, go ahead if anybody's got one. Our brother Kirk Sherrod, he is now our man. What is the most effective time frame for an HOA? 1 to 2, 20 minutes? I don't want to scare anyone. Thanks for dumbing it down for me. Backcrack crazy for it. Yep, that by the way, that is my brand. Kirk's picked up on me already, apparently. So.
Yeah. Oh, you and Kirk are going to get along really well. I can
see he's going to be a new BFF, and I'm pretty excited about it. You know what, Kirk, it really does range. I mean, let's go with the long end of it. Christine and I did a show, and right before it, I was like, why did we agree to this? And it was probably one of the best things we ever did. It was a labor of. It was a 4-hour show on New Year's. We brought in 23 different people and ranged in the topics. And
but then our weekly show, weekly show we do together is only 30 minutes. And, I'm going to say just something that somebody asked me the other day, how long should my Google Plus post be? Or I've heard before, how long should my blog post be? And now, how long should my Hangout be? It should be long enough for you to say what you need to say, and short enough, but to say it in little number of words as possible, basically. So, you know, if you have content for a half-hour show, don't try to make it an hour show or a 2-hour show, because you're going to lose people's interest.
It is.
You know,
And,
so that's very important, you know, but if you have, you know, a whole bunch to say, a whole lot of content or some great guests, you know, you might not want to try to get that all in a half hour. So it really depends.
It does, and you can gauge that too. And then the other show that Christine has, we both have an hour show on Fridays, and that is an hour, but we always have a panel of guests. Now, here's the kind of cool thing, and Dennis can show that. He mentioned that as well. You can watch as you're moderating your show. That's only the person that's running it, and you can see as your numbers ebb and flow. And then you can start gauging that as well and say, okay, I started out at 50, and then after about 40 minutes, it drops and drops. That's your tipping point. And then you can also go to YouTube and look at your analytics, and I've been finding a lot of good content. I can literally go and see when people start going, you know, and nodding off on the conversation, and I can see patterns as well. Gosh, after 40 minutes, and if someone speaks for too long, I do coach my guests of like, I'm going to tell you right now, if you talk too long, I know you think it's really interesting and cool, but you're gonna lose people because it's too much. So you can gauge it and see.
Well, let me cut you off there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you shut up? Because we just lost 4 people.
Sorry about that, Mia.
I knew I was coming. I was actually setting myself up for you to do.
You know me already too, apparently.
I do, honey.
One thing that I want to point out is this question of length is something that no one can ever answer for you, and it's about you and your analytics. I've heard for years that a YouTube video has to be under 5 minutes. Okay, it has to be. My HOAs get about 30 times as much views as the segments, and in most of my videos I will break them down into really interesting snippets that I hyper target with really great SEO content to try and drive traffic to them. People would rather go watch the big show for some reason. I think maybe it's because I'm known as being an HOA producer, so they're kind of looking for that. I don't know why my statistics, but I've kind of stopped cutting up my videos because I'm not getting viewership on them. It's not worth the time that I spend doing it. So everyone's going to be different. That question is something you kind of need to study. You need to know how to look at the analytics.
Feel it out and change it up. You know, you can do 20 minutes here and then go a little bit more. I think that 5-minute rule is out though, because I thought the same thing, and then I think on HOAs, once you start getting the fans, you can gauge it and see how it is. Craig has a good look. Craig, I love Craig. This is true. 30 minutes only works for you and one other person. Otherwise, with intros and it's too short. An hour is usually good unless you've got something unique going on. Craig, by the way, has been one of our guest hosts too. So
yeah, and I want to point out this thing about having hosts on. That's really vital to making the show good for a lot of different reasons. One, it gives interaction and interest. Okay. 2, those people help promote the show. Okay, so if Mia and Christine had done a show, they would not have ever gotten Kirk Sherrod to watch it. At the same time, I couldn't have ever gotten Craig on to watch this show, okay, without having them here. So you want to bring in guests, and the other thing, there's a couple of other things that are really interesting. If a small business puts together a show and brings on guests, I have a pawn shop that's a client of mine. If he's trying to build his brand as being a pawn shop in Midvale, so he brings in other guests who are local businesses. They have nothing to do with pawn, they have to do with Midvale, so that the term Midvale starts coming up in the conversations and helps to drive his local search. But inevitably, whenever a guest comes on a show, this is just absolute human nature stuff here. They start to feel, well, they feel grateful that you're promoting their business on your show. So inevitably, they do the same thing. Every single guest I've ever had on any show I've ever produced for a business has done the exact same thing. They have given a testimonial about how great the business is. Now, you cut those up into segments. If you want to have a testimonial page on your website and you're doing a weekly HOA, which, by the way, doesn't cost a lot. I mean, look around this room. The equipment that's in here, You can buy it for $2,000. Okay, this is not an expensive process. It takes time and it takes some, mental power.
And you're at the high end, brother.
Yeah,
you should see what we got going on here.
My setup costs under $100.
Well, but you're not running multiple cameras and USB.
I know. And I'm definitely impressed with what you've put together, for sure.
Well, thank you.
It's another level. We love it.
I just got Christine DeGraff to say she's impressed. That's an individual piece and going on a testimonial.
And I'm going to second that emotion that I'm impressed as well. So nice job. We love it.
But just for the class to know, before October, I had never even been on a YouTube video. I am a total newbie at this, and now I'm actually the co-host of 3 shows. And I actually have a fear of public speaking, so figure that one out. But I really felt like like I said when I talked about immersing myself in Google Plus, I really see this as where it's all going to be happening in the next couple years, and that I needed to overcome every fear I have, jump in with 2 feet, and learn everything I can, and that's what I've been doing.
It's pretty fun, and actually I would encourage you guys, if you go to that website that HOA shows, there's a section where you can apply to be a guest on some of these shows. Please reach out to us if you'd like to come on to any shows. If you have an idea, an issue that's close to your heart, you can definitely find a show. You can say, hey, I'd like to come onto your show and contribute as well. Just saying.
Hey, Mia and Christine.
Good way to start.
Yes.
I'd like to come on your show.
We would love to have you on it. You're mean, Mia.
I know. I had to get it back for that other comment. Darling, that's a gimme. You know that.
Yeah, I kind of figured once you were on my show, we'd get along and I'd end up on your show. But.
I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for a hat. Seriously.
I don't go online without my hat, by the way, and so I'm getting known as.
That's your brand, hon. Mine's my tiara. Yours is your hat.
It is. I have a bunch of hats, but I'm known online as the man in the hat.
You are.
All right, we are going to close down. I'm going to close down all questions online. Do we have any last questions in the classroom? Anything?
You are.
All right, good deal. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you guys. I appreciate Christine and Mia for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wait, and this is for you guys. Right back at you.
All right, Cliff, did you want to say anything in closing?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come join us on Google Plus, guys. Come on.
The water's fine.
The water's fine. All right, I'm closing down, and we're not going to do a green room, guys.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Dennis.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
FYI, another one of those.
That's a green room.